would you like to open your career?
Yes, I will. Morning, everybody. Dear Lord, give us the knowledge and the courage to make the best decisions that are presented today. Keep us all safe. Let us all care for one another in a trusting and in a decent manner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Olsen. Good words of wisdom. We do have we've got Councillor Holtz who is online, and we also should have Councillor Mackenzie, but he's in apologies, I say. We've got Councillor Mackenzie in apologies. I'll move to have a seconder. Councillor Harding. All those in favour? Aye. Carried. Thank you. Again, as always, councillors, as we go through, if there's any declaration of interest, please make it known to us as we go through. We have item 4.1, which is the 2023-24 proposed fees and charges. I believe we've got the list here in front. Page 3, page 2. No, get it right. Page 1 on the paper version. Page 3 on the electronic version. Do I have a mover? Councillor Olsen, you're going to move this?
Yes.
Going to speak to it since we've got live streaming there, Councillor Olsen?
Want to read the recommendation? Whangarei District Council.
Oh, sorry, Councillor. Do we have a seconder?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, Councillor Connor, seconds. Go for it, Councillor Olsen.
That Whangarei District, A, adopt the statement of proposal for the 23-24 fees and charges listed in Table A below, which are subject to the special consultant procedure process under the Local Government Act 2002. B, resolves to speak public submissions on these fees and charges in accordance with the special consultative procedure.
Yeah.
Wow. Table A, 2023-24 fees and charges subject to the special consultative procedure. Bylaw enforcement, page 7. Drainage, wastewater and trade in brackets, page 4 to 6. Gambling and Racing Act, page 10. Public Places Bylaw, page 12. Resource Management Act, Council Professional Fees, Monitoring of Land Use, District Plan, Private Plan Changes, page 13 to 21. Rubbish Disposal, page 22 to 23. Water Supply, page 24 to 25. And Food Premises, page 8 to 10. Adopt the 23-24 fees and charges which are not subject to the special consultative procedure listed in Table B below. Table B, 2023 to 24 fees and charges not subject to the special consultative procedure. Animal dogs, dog control, page 3 to 4. Building control, page 5 to 12. Cameron Street Mall permits, page 13. Cemetery, page 14 to 15. Forum North venue hire, page 26. Laboratory, page 29 to 30. Land information memorandum, page 35. Library, page 31 to 33. Official information, page 37. Parks and Reserves, page 38 to 40. Photocopying, page 41. Searches, page 50. Swimming pool fencing inspections, page 51. Transport, page 52. And D, authorise the Chief Executive to make minor amendments, drafting, typographical or presentation corrections necessary to the proposed fees and charges in the statement of proposal prior to consultation.
Well done.
You won't volunteer again, will you?
No.
Councillor Olsen, would you like to speak to the motion?
No. Not at the moment.
Delise, would you like to add anything to this item?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I guess just to recap what we have previously discussed in a briefing, that we will work through a more thorough process as part of the long-term plan, where we'll assess our activities and the funding for those and look at that public-private aspect. So for this year, we've continued on the approach from the existing revenue and financing policy, looked through the fees, assessed the revenue expected from these increases against the funding bands provided in the revenue and financing policy to ensure we keep consistent. Most fees have had, or are proposed to have a 5.9% LGCI increase for the year. Some fees are being held constant, where we're at the higher end or near the top of the range in our policy. And some other changes within the building to do with changes in processes where costs have reduced.
Councillor,
Just wonder if we can mute our laptops.
how do you do it?
The pinging of noises.
Start. Sorry about that. Everyone's laptops are muted just to make sure.
Mine's in this.
Okay, excellent. There is a button on the keyboard which is usually around F5 if those need to help.
Thank you.
Okay. Apart from that, anything else, Councillor Yogi, did you want to ask us? Or?
No, it's just difficult hearing it.
It's okay, all good. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Connell.
Yeah, it's good that we're going out to consultation on these, but once again, it's always difficult for some people in some situations as well. I've had one comment where, this is a question in the statement, I'll go back to the statement in a second. Is there the potential of looking at, when we impose fines on people, that they are looking at how they're able to pay them, kind of thing? So in relation to their income. Because if it's a standing stock alone, somebody who has a lot of money can pay it easily, but somebody who's in dire circumstances, whilst that fine is important to the it gets the point across. Is there a way that they can actually do it without the potential of incurring further losses?
Through the chair, are you referring to infringements?
Yes.
I might see if Rhino wants to comment on that one. Or Alison.
Through the chair, I'm not quite sure whether I've understood the question, but infringement are set by legislation and there's no increases to infringement fees. Just fees and charges, user fees and charges.
I'm more relating to if somebody's being charged with an infringement, is it possible to relate that to their income rather than a stock standard fee?
No, infringement is set by statute and apply across the board, irrespective of what personal circumstances an individual may have.
Cool, thank you. That answers that question. I'll carry on with my initial because it jogged up. This is something that we need to do to be able to cover the costs that we have to cover. There are so many things that we have out there. One thing that I will highlight that is, as usual, waste. The fact that the potential of the rubbish bags going up to $4 a bag as opposed to the $3 per bag, including the small rubbish bag going from $1.80 to $2. Whilst these are definitely important to cover the cost of the services that are provided in that, it will impact people as well. The interesting thing is as well, it's that some people don't think about is when they fly tech rubbish, that it incurs a cost to the council, which we then have to put up rates to cover that cost, which is a compounding feature to go up. So we need to ensure that we are finding a way to support these people as best as possible, not necessarily on the rubbish bags, but the way we deal with these things. And yes, I support the fact that we need to look at the environment and stuff, but it's just something we need to take into account when we do these things. One last question. In regards to page 95, public use of weighbridge. Why is that a separated thing rather than included within the cost of let's say, one of the options in there.
Delise, did you get that page number?
So, for example, page 95, the document page 23 in the proposal. Rubber services at transfer stations, there's obviously the costs that go up. But like with the, let's say, where's the, that's very well. At the very bottom it says public use of weighbridge, $10 up to $15. Now, why is that not included within the weight of the vehicle being weighed already going across, per se?
Through the chair, unfortunately, we haven't got David Lindsay here. I have messaged him to see if he's coming. I'm not sure if anyone else here can answer that one.
Through the chair, I believe that some of the people come and simply to weigh something, not to actually dispose of it.
Okay, perfect. Sweet. Thank you.
Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Worship. Look, I read through all of this, and there's lots of areas where there are no increases in fees. For example, page 51, land information memorandum. Why are, and my question and part of my ignorance, why are some fees increased when others are not? Shouldn't it be across the board increasing fees generally?
So it's actually a very good question, and as a new councillor, it's something that you probably don't understand. But Liz did answer that at the beginning. Liz, do you want to say it again?
Sorry, sorry.
It's fine. So we use the funding bands provided in our revenue and financing policy to determine how an activity should be funded.
Right.
So part of that looks at the costs involved with that activity. If the current rate is a fair reflection of those costs and the time spent to provide it, then we don't increase the costs. So for the LIMS, the customer services team, in the process they do, we're comfortable that that fee was sufficiently covering the cost associated to providing the activity.
Okay, so that would cover all the other pages that I've got marked as well. Thank you.
Delisa, just one question that I have on page 54. It's probably the biggest jump that I've seen, which was about the cricket. Now, you have on page 13 put a description and explains the reason why. It just seems one of the biggest jumps that I've seen in all of the figures there. You know, quite a bit. So, is there any more that you can add to what you've said as page 13?
Probably not more than what Sue's provided, with just the cost of the contract to keep that pitch at that level is increased. So it's to cover the increased cost to council.
Quite a significant jump. Councillors, is there any other questions or comments? Councillor Connell, do you want to say something again?
One more question.
Yep.
I understand also within this document we have step fees that we will just adopt straight away, and we have things that will go out to consultation. You're referring to the public good that everybody gets from dog fees, and the cost that it is incurred on the dog owners, and the lack of the ability for the ones who cannot pay to pay. When do we have that opportunity to discuss, change that for the idea of when we can? I understand we cannot do that in this one.
So through the chair, that will be part of the process for the long-term plan and the development of the revenue and financing policy. We will go back to basics, look at those activities and have that discussion with the councillors to determine that.
Spectacular. Thank you very much.
So questions we've had. Councillor Olsen, would you like to write a reply?
No, thank you, Worship.
Councillors, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Councillors, we're going to move on to item 4.2, which is on page 101 in the paper version, or 103 in the electronic version, which is the annual plan 2023-24 consultation documents. Aaron is going to come across and sit in the hot seat. Do I have and Bernadette? Or just Bernadette, I'm not too sure. Both, excellent. Councillor Reid is going to move now, yep. And do we have a seconder? Well, no, Councillor Holmes, second. Councillor Reid.
Putting myself on the firing line here. The recommendation is that Council 1 agrees on the consultation issues for the draft annual plan 23-24, which include option 1, increase general rates by 10.9%. Option 2, increase general rates by 7.9% in line with what was said in the long-term plan 2021 to 31. 2, adopts the consultation document and supporting documents for the draft annual plan 2023-24. 3, authorises the Chief Executive any necessary drafting, administrative, typographical or presentation corrections prior to printing and distribution, including any updates required prior to finalising the consultation document.
It's been moved. Councillor Reid, would you like to speak to it?
I probably should. Thank you, Your Worship. Our staff have spent many hours formulating this document, and this is the public's chance to tell us what they would prefer. Be careful how I say this. We so often get told that we've had no input. Well, ratepayers, now's your chance. It's all here for you to digest and give us your feedback. And I can promise you that we will listen. What we must remember is that we have to do the best that we can for the district, which sometimes means making hard choices and doing things that are not entirely favourable. So with that, Your Worship, thank you.
Councillors, let's open the floor. Any questions or comments? Councillor Olsen?
Can you clarify more for me, please, Your Worship? Like in the options with the 10.9, wasn't there a statement there that said 3% would go to roading infrastructure, which is not here?
That is a very good point. Aaron?
It is in the.
It is, actually.
Oh, it's further on, but it's not on the recommendation.
I think what Councillor Olsen is referring to, Aaron, is that when a motion is usually written, it makes it very clear and states so there can't be any backtrack on it. So while I appreciate it's in the words, and I'm quite sure she's highlighting on this, is there a reason why it hasn't been included within the motion?
No, we did see that, we did put it into the briefing itself, but we haven't put it into the motion.
Just noting at the bottom of page 102, that makes reference to the 3% going into roading. To cover all of the narrative within the recommendation would make it somewhat clumsy. We can do that if you wish, but at this point in time, document is going up for public consultation, and the main points are the 10.9 and the 7.9. So that's why it's written like that.
Yeah, can I speak to that? I just think that if this is going out for public, it should be in the recommendations. It might clarify to the public why we're seeking that increase.
On page
I know it's on page 1. I did read it further down, but
4.1 is those reasons. So to be complete, you need to include all of them.
okay, right, thank you.
Councillor Gavich?
In terms of the annual plan, yeah, it's stated in there, but can we propose an amendment? I mean, I don't know if we need to go into the full detail of adding all the additional stuff, but to actually just say that including 3% to 3% to roading. That's the only amendment I would propose in terms of the to the resolution.
So, Councillor Gavich, are you moving an amendment to that?
Yes, I would.
I'll second it.
And that's in relation to option 1 and option 2, stating the two different amounts?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Just for clarification.
Yes, Councillor.
Because wasn't even the 7.9%, wasn't that also?
Yes, that's, I just commented on that.
Yes, right, yes.
So just for clarification's purpose, Councillor Govich has asked for the amendment of the, now I'm just going to make sure I get this right for you, Councillor Jovich. In option 1, where it says increase general rates by 10.9%, you then would like with 3% going towards roading, is that or something like that?
To roading. Well,
Ellen has got some wording like
I
that.
suppose it's very important to get this absolutely right technically, otherwise we're going to actually getting a tiny amount going to roading, which is not what you're after.
Correct.
So if we just take the time, please, to actually nail this wording down to achieve what we want to do.
Okay. Ellen, are you going to reword something here or?
I'll try to
Because you did something before, didn't you? So, Councillor Goodwin.
If Councillor Jovich is finished, Eddie?
I was only going to, I think page 102 in terms of the allocating 3% of the proposed, coming back to the wording. Councillor Goodwin.
Councillor Goodwin.
Thank you. So while the Chief Financial Officer is working on the wording of that, are you happy for me to carry on with the general discussion around this?
Yep.
Thank you, Your Worship. Quite clearly, as a district, we face some challenges, and they're well laid out in the report, so I thank the staff very much. It has been a difficult beginning to this term of council, and the staff have really worked well to get the options in front of us. The choices that we face are based around response to the inflation, which is very high at the moment, unprecedented, and to be fair, uncaptured by the CPI that we use. And so here we would be stepping out of our policy, and I think it's important to understand why we would be doing that. Our policy is the local government index plus 2%, and so the 10.9% that we're consulting on is above that, and so therefore we are responding to the real inflation that we are seeing. And I think Councillor Reid referred to it before, and so much as that the roading costs, for instance, have gone up by 18%, we are being told. So there is some real need for us as a district to respond to that if we want to keep the levels of service going that our residents are used to. So I think it's a good consultation document. It is clear as to the reasons why we have the two options in there, and I fully support it with the changes proposed yet to come around the wording to go out to consultation. Thank you very much.
That's good. Just grab Councillor Halls, thank you. Councillor Halls?
Thank you, Worship. We support the recommendation, the amendment moved by Councillor Jovich. There's a clear right at the start that the 3% was going to go to roading, and it's specifically roading, not transportation. So we just want to make sure that's totally clear. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Councillor Jovich, should you?
Yeah, just make general comments.
And now, just point out so we get the procedures right here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because you'll be speaking to the amendment.
Yes. Okay.
That I'm just hoping Ellen's got something with the amendment. You have?
Right, sorry, it was just a general discussion, as Councillor Peck was.
I know, as we discussed, we talked to the actual end of the motion on the amendment. So I'm just trying to make sure that you don't lose your chance of actually speaking to the amendment as you're moving it, that's all. Ellen, you've got it, or?
I've got 3 minutes away. Yes, absolutely right. Panel will sort out.
Councillor Connor.
I'm going to speak to the original motion.
Yep.
It's roughly the same anyway.
Yep.
We don't like having to put these fees up. We hear it all the time from all of us. We always speak very clearly and highly to ensure that we do the best that we possibly can for our public who are having to pay these costs. We are included in these costs as well because we also pay those rates. We also need to ensure that the staff that the council employs have the funding to be able to do the work that the public expects of us to do. In order to do that, unless somebody wants to do things themselves and actually get out and do the bits and pieces voluntarily, we have to pay somebody for a service to be able to do this. And as such, we have to be able to ensure that there's enough there to cover this. The only thing that I hear that is more complaints that about the cost of the rates, about the level of the rates, is the fact that we're not dealing with as much as the public want us to. If we want to do that, the rates have to go up to cover those expectations. And that is hard because we have to find the balance. And I appreciate within the document that we're going out to public consultation, there is a note on being balanced and ensuring we hear back from people to do this. If we want to reduce anything, we need to hear from people to tell us what we need to reduce. If we need to increase anything, we need to hear from the people what we increase. So we have that evidence so that we can actually do things for the public. I want to do more as much as possible, and hence I do a lot of voluntary stuff myself. And I then expect the council to do the larger things that I cannot do. And I encourage others to do the same. It's one of those difficult areas that we have to be able to actually get things covered, and it's a difficult space to be in. And whilst I appreciate the 3% within this being targeted to specifically roading, and yes, we do need to ensure that our roading network is up to a standard, we also have footpaths, we have sidewalks, we have other forms of transportation which are needed by so many people, from school kids who do not have a vehicle to get around, from lighting to ensure that our areas are safe, to ensure that people can actually get from A to B through the middle of the city without having to take dogleg to get around. So whilst I appreciate we have to deal with potholes and the damage that we've had, we also need to ensure that somebody in a wheelchair can get across town in the same regard.
Aaron, I'm not sure if while Ellen's still going on this, whether you want to explain, maybe through the pages there, through the financial pages, why there's 3 rows of columns, 2 are labelled annual plan and got different figures. Maybe you want to explain the differences there or the reasons for that?
Yes, thank you, Kuru Matua. Just prior to discussing it, and I'm not sure, but my recollection of the second option was the 2.5 allocated for roading.
Correct.
Yes, remind my colleague in the wording.
It starts on page 125 and goes through. There's 3 columns. One shows the long-term plan year 3, one shows annual plan, and one shows annual plan 2022, 23, 24. Just so that people understand the difference of the columns, what they're in the document for.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So really, if we look at column 1, the annual plan for 22-23, if we look at that, the opening balance there was 1.922. And then into the 23-24 plan is what we are suggesting today. And if we look over to the far right hand column, that's what we had forecasted through the long-term plan. So it gives a clear picture of what we had previously, what we have allocated for in this proposal here today, and again, what was in the LTP forecasted previously.
Liz, do you want to add anything?
Sorry, I'm standing here. Just to comment that those columns are prescribed by legislation as well, so they're required to be in that format.
Ellen, I was hoping to have given you enough time there for you to...
I'm just addressing the email.
Simon, do you want to add anything to this?
Mr. Chair, if I could just add something in terms of the wording, it was around some simplicity. This document is going out to our colleagues, I think, within the forum here, our learned elected members have had time to adjust, to understand this through the sequences of the various briefings, to understand exactly what the recommendations mean. We were going through with the approach of simplicity to ensure that there's a general understanding of what the options were. The detail of splitting that up is there still in the narrative, and of course we had already agreed that that would be in the options as well. So it was more around the fact that this is going out to our public, out to our communities, and to try and keep a document. As we know, once we start seeing depreciation, inflation and words like that, to be quite frank, some of our communities just turn off to that. So we are trying to keep the document in the form which can be understood by a lot of our communities.
My only comment on that, going forward, it'd be nice to show it differently in the future, because we do show there's a surplus of 21 million, which is made up of capital funding. So, the general public will be looking at this and saying you're going for a 10.9 increase in rates, and you've got a $21 million profit. Now, when I look at it, there's around about nearly $35 million in CapEx funding. So, we actually run a deficit. And, I know the team across the board are looking into all of this and finding alternative ways of funding. And also, the CapEx, what we actually are spending on, is being looked at. So, it'll be interesting in the consultation, but in addition to that, there's work that is being carried out, because some of the CapEx, we have to really consider.
Ellen, you've got the...
Chair, I share Councillor Young's frustrations. Unfortunately, we are following the statutory process. We have to do it in this way. I've personally spoken to the Auditor General about the fact that we're required to make defunct accounts which aren't eligible to the ratepayers, regardless of where the money's being spent. And we have to make a change for many years now. I'm seeing appetite to change, unfortunately. So we can maybe do things through increased narrative and our own reporting. The statutory document, we have to follow what the legislation says, sadly.
Now, the motion that I've got here, is this one?
Yep, this is the suggested motion. I'll just check with Councillor Jovich whether this meets what is our. But option 1, increase general rates by 10.9%. Distributing first 7.9% of the general rates, increase generally in line with budgets allocated in the 2022-23 annual plan, and allocating the remaining 3% of the general rates increase specifically to roading. Option 2, increase general rates by 7.9%, distributing the first 5.4% of the general rates increase generally in line with budget allocations in the 2022-23 annual plan, and allocating the remaining 2.5% of the general rates increase specifically to roading.
Yes. That's the motion that you're moving on. That's the one that Peters is seconding. Yep, she's still seconding that, just making sure. Since you've already spoken to that motion, we'll put it. Is there any other discussion on that? Councillor Peters.
I just note that pensioner housing is being deferred, and I wonder whether that could be reconsidered.
As this is a document going out for consultation, Councillor Peters, that's something that definitely the public can have a say on, and I would encourage the public to have a say on if that's something which is very important. As it is to you, and I know that.
So without this money, we cannot meet our goals of pensioner housing.
Absolutely.
I wonder why it is, and I've brought this up, that this remains as an item not to be funded.
Councillor Peters, again, this is a document going up for consultation, and that's for the exact thing to be brought up and gone over. So I hear your sentiments, and I agree with your sentiments, but this is what's going up for consultation, because we need to actually go for consultation first to come back to the council to go through those line items as well.
So I'm aware that I can't vote for it without it.
I think Benedict's got it.
Through the chair, on page 14 of the consultation document, at the top it says pensioner housing, and planning is underway to deliver new pensioner housing in the next financial year following a $2 million allocation in our current LTP, and that's in the section that refers to what's coming up and the work that's underway in the district.
But then on page 137 in the paper one, it's deferred. The money column.
Just check that.
What is the on that?
137 or 139 because of the electronic version.
137.
Through the chair, so that relates to renewals and improvements. And I might need to check in with Victoria if she's present. I understand that relates more to maintenance work as opposed to the project development.
Ellen over there again.
My understanding is this will be a timing issue. The fact that while we get the work started, we won't be able to spend the whole $2 million next year. That's why the scheme is over those 2 years. So the work is significantly started. We'll get it going, but it won't all be spent. That reflects that fact.
So just, I'm sorry to keep going about this, but His Worship and I have publicly said that we're going to week. We both said that in public.
Yeah, and Councillor Peters, again, I'm saying I agree with your sentiment. We're going out for consultation on this particular thing. Ellen has already said that they've started, from what I'm hearing from Bernadette, they're already starting the work, they're already starting the process through. What they've deferred is the fact that they don't believe that they're able to spend the whole money in that year period. What they're trying to do is spend it over 2 years and spend it the next year. Is that correct, Ellen?
That is correct. If the money is that we can make it fast approach, we can bring that money forward again. So you've got a resolution.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm hoping that's on record.
Councillor Benny, I noticed you had your hand up.
Yeah, firstly I just want to support Councillor Peters on that, and that's so that we've made that a priority, and I think we'll continue to push that. This has been a really interesting debate over a period of time, and I've brought it up before and I'm going to bring it up again, that 6 months ago we had an election and rating was brought up several times in that election, and I would just about guarantee that almost every councillor, and I say almost every councillor, would not have supported, if they had been asked, would you support a 10.9, 11% rate rise, they would have all said no. So it's interesting now that we're going to the public with this. So consultation is an interesting process to go through. We've got the two options there, 10.9 and 7.9. I know now what the public are going to say, as I'm really interested in where we go from that. I still, and I've been consistent on this the whole time. We all know, we've all seen 5 people putting up a road sign with 4 vehicles, and we all know that there's a lot of, and to be fair to staff, there's been a lot of pushback on what some people consider wastage and excess costs on some of our contracts, and there has been some real considerable work going on, and I acknowledge that. Everybody wants more money, but take a look at there are alternative ways of doing things. Take a look at what Auckland are doing. I'm not suggesting we should go down that line, but there are alternative ways, and I see we've got 2 alternatives: cut back on services or take on more debt. There are alternatives to that, and I urge the public to make the submissions, and I really look forward to the debate when those submissions come up.
Thank you, Councillor Benny. And again, I think I agree with the sentiments there, and that's why we've got a finance person, Councillor Govich, there, and a Councillor Reid, who's on the infrastructure, trying to make sure improvements are done. Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, broadly, I'd support Councillor Benny. Nobody wants to see rate increases, and I think that's a given. However, we can't lose sight of the fact that the recent adverse weather event has been a bit of a game changer for the district. And we didn't foresee it, and what it has done is expose our ageing infrastructure. So whilst Councillor Benny's correct, I feel sure that the feedback in the consultation process will suggest that this is not a popular move, and I accept it's not a popular move. I feel duty-bound to support the motion because we have to fix our crumbling infrastructure. I think the important point, and I completely agree with Councillor Benny, is it's about this council ensuring that the ratepayer money is spent wisely and we achieve value for money for the ratepayers. And that's what the ratepayers should expect of us. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Councillor Henderson. I think we all agree with the sentence there. Councillor Hardy?
Kia ora tātou. Yeah, I just want to support Councillor Holmes because that was going to be my response to Councillor Benny. We didn't know what we were going to come, kind of 6 months after getting in, that we were going to be in the position and the environment that we put ourselves in. So absolutely totally for that. And 6 months feet under the table now, you can hardly call us newbies anymore. But it has been hugely challenging. And it's been amazing to see the collaborative impact on the civil defence emergency groups coming together, and shows what Tai Tukaro and what the Whangarei district can do when we're under duress. Engari, everything comes at a cost, and when we were first looking at what the original 7.9% might look like, and if we got that over the table, there would be no consultation and involvement. And then we were looking at, because that would save a huge amount of costs on the district and on the council itself. And I think some of us were a little bit uneasy about not going out and having that public engagement as new elected members on the block, so to speak. So, where we are now, it does give the chance for our engagement with all our communities, and for them to see, and the documentation is great, it's really clear, and it's online as well. So, I think when I'm thinking of our hapu and our whānau, especially our younger ones, they interact a lot better online. So again, as some of the elected members have already said, the submission process is now open, and it's really important to have that input. I encourage all of our hapu working groups, our marae, our whānau, this is the point in time to help make a difference. And at the end of the day, I know it's going to come back here, isn't it, at the table, but I think we need to get a sense of, hey, why is the pension, why is that being deferred? And how much can we fit in for this year and for the next 10 years? So really, that's what I wanted to speak to the motion on. Thank you.
Councillor, you already spoken.
Oh, I think that was a question. Was it?
No.
I want now.
It was a question. I've got a clarification. It was a question.
Yes, thank you. I now want to speak in support of the motion.
The emotional amendment. It was a small amendment. We haven't moved the
amendment. That's it. Particularly, people put us here to make decisions and hopefully to look towards the future in a global sense. Like, we're responsible for ensuring that Whangarei is resilient into the future, and we're not just talking about the next 3 years, we're talking resilient. And what recent events have shown, not just the recent cyclone, but other events that have come up, is that we need to actually do some really serious work in other areas, in Rodan, but in other areas other than Rodan as well. That there are a number of areas that showed our infrastructure needed more work. So I'm speaking strongly in favour of this, including housing, of course. Thank you.
You're welcome, Councillor Peters. It's also I did still double check there.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
You can speak to the amendment now, not the motion.
Can I make a statement?
Yes, that's speaking.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm going to come from a different tact. I think now is the time for a rate increase, and I'm probably, like Councillor Reid, putting my head on the chopping block here. But after Cyclone Gabrielle, I think with all the destruction that's caused, and from talking to people in the community, that I think quite a number are actually accepting of a rate increase to fix the problems. So it will be interesting, but yeah, I don't think it's all negative out there, to be honest. So let's just wait and see.
Have you really spoken?
I have a question.
Question, yes?
In regards to, and this is regard to the roading word in the very beginning. On page 134, 136 electronic, or 14 in the supporting documents, we have this whole list that sets out everything that is covered by the transportation. Within that, I can only actually see one word in there that says roading. Can we specify from that list what is excluded or what is included, which is probably easier, to be clear as to what that actually means? Because whilst a road might need to be fixed, absolutely, there might be drainage that needs to be going into the side of that, a footpath that goes on the side of that has also been lost. And if that's not able to be taken care of at the same time, how does that get dealt with, or what is classified in that space? Because
Councillor Connolly, the question you're actually asking is about the determination of what the word roading means.
In regards to the transportation.
Yep, and we've already talked previously about that and made it very, very clear that the 3% or the 2.5% is specifically going back, is to basically repair a lot of the damage that has been done by the storms. Sorry?
Including footpaths?
It's been damaged by, behind you, Jim.
Through the chair, so our interpretation at the moment, and will be guided by council, is that the real focus is that we have a lot of infrastructure to repair. If we look at, there will be a paper coming to council outlining what those projects look like. In the main, we have a lot of underslips to fix. There's a lot of investment required in that space. So getting the bulk of the cost of getting the earthworks and getting the structural strength done. There will, as part of that, be undoubtedly some footpaths that need replacing, as there will be water mains and other things that have been damaged through that. Certainly, whilst it's a transportation asset management group, we'll bring the projects that are coming through there to council and work through those. But certainly, understanding that the priority for council is to fix up our infrastructure and get our infrastructure back into the space it needs to be.
So councillors, we've moved and seconded the amendment. I'm going to ask, can we now vote on the amendment, please? So all in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Taking councillor Holst, that was a yes, you're supporting. Yes, okay, that was a thumbs up. Yes, thank you. So now comes the substantial motion. As you know, we'll need to vote on that as well. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Again, I'm taking the thumbs up from Councillor Holst at that particular time, meaning that he's in support. Yes, rather than just being thumbs up at that time. Councillor, we're moving on to item 4.3, which is page 173 to 175 in the electronic version. And this is Tikamo proposed name change. Do I have a mover? And I think Aaron is staying for this one, are you? Or is
staying in Mark's coming.
And Mark's coming, okay. Councillor Hooker, I'm going to move that. Yes. Okay. Would you like to read it?
I'll second.
I was seeing Councillor Harding used to say that. Councillor Hooker.
Thank you, Richard.
that council note the Te Kārearea Strategic Partnership Standing Committee, Te Kārearea support a submission from council to the New Zealand Geographic Board from Paukatauna or Aotearoa. Note Te Kārearea request that if a submission is made by council, it considers the submissions from Āti Kahu or Koromare to be discussed at Te Hui on 2nd of April 2023, delegates in worship the Mayor and Councillor Deborah Harding as Chair of the Kārearea Strategic Partnership Standing Committee to make a submission taking into account feedback from Council and outcomes from the Hui of Ngāti Kahu or Koromare.
Would you like to speak?
Can I reserve my right to?
You can have your right to reply, yes. You want to speak to?
I can speak to.
Yes.
I support the motion for us to put in a submission. For me, name changes to some seem quite, they might seem a little bit insignificant, especially just adding 2 letters, maybe if you're unsure of the history, but for me, reclaiming our spaces, reclaiming our names is all a part of re-indigenizing our spaces and reclaiming and being good tiriti partners. So for me, going back to its original name of Te Kamo, and that's something I want to be clear about, is that it's going back to its original name. It's not a proposed name change. It's a proposed really to bring our name back to its original name. So I think those things are big forward strides in terms of upholding our responsibilities to Te Tiriti o Waikato. So I'm a big support of putting in a submission.
Councillor Olsen.
Yes, so I have quite an involvement with the Karma Wing, and they are organising I'm just going to make a statement, I don't want to ask a question. They're organising a public meeting over this to see how the public feel. I would just like to say that I endorse what Councillor Walker says. I did a bit of research on this, and in 1883, I think it was, or around that time, looking at the map of Kamo, it was Te Kamo. And when you look at the names of that, it means one is Bubbles, which I expect comes into the Springs flat, the Springs. But the other one was Eyelashes, and I couldn't understand why it was eyelashes. But anyway, yeah, that's just a little bit of history. So it is, you're right, Phoenix, it is there on paper as Te Kamo.
Aaron and Mark, what do you want to comment on that statement there?
Yeah, so there's the name for the springs is actually Te Tupua, and that's referenced in here. This iteration in use of Kamo is not in reference to the bubble reference that you might have seen, but there is a correlation in regards to the eyes, not so much eyelashes, but to blink. When this particular ancestor, an incident happened where she lost her husband and in grieving took her own life. And the flickering of the eyes denotes just the fact that she was still alive at a certain point. But it was remembered, it was because she had asked for someone not to interfere. And the person that she asked to look over her as she took her life. And this was on a particular tree that stands outside the school, Te Kamo school. And that tree is still standing. And the person that she had asked to look over her was a priest, was a local priest. And it was remembered in the flickering of her eyes before she had finally passed over. Yeah.
Thank you.
Gilda.
Now, just for clarification here for myself, the motion that's been put here is not necessarily that there will be a guaranteed submission. It will be once there's consultations gone amongst the community, plus also once there's the marae out there having their discussions as well, then they'll come back to council again. Is that correct?
No, this was really to check if, because the consultation process is open and it's whether council are prepared to submit a submission independent of what the community might be preferring or otherwise. But at Te Kārearea, one of the members had asked that whatever submission might take into consideration what comes out of Ngāti Kahua Torongari's meeting taking place this Sunday.
Sorry, I just wanted clarification on that.
So essentially, Mr. Chair, Te Kārearea has requested that the council consider drafting a submission. If the council are in agreement to that, then through this passage of narrative, one would assume that yourself and Councillor Harding, Chair of Te Kārearea, would take on that responsibility.
So, councillors, we've had the move and second. Is there any other discussion? And Councillor Harding.
Thank you. And mihi atu kia koe mō tō kōrero tautoko, Councillor Ruka. And I especially want to mihi to Councillor Olsen for her own personal investigation. And I think that's really progressive and appreciative. And the response around the translation of and in our past times and in our pūrākau and our historical stories, they're always very emotional, aren't they? They're always very dramatic. So as soon as you said eyelashes, I thought to myself, this ain't going to be nice. But it is the true depth of where things have come from, and I guess that's why I'm always very, I get a little bit emotional around when I see so many name changes and they don't have much connection to a place and its history. So I'm mihi to you for finding out for yourself that research. And also around the dual the submission on our behalf, and there was a lot of discussion at Te Kārearea, but the wording take into account what might come from that really makes it kind of a little bit more, kind of in a better place for you and I to put something together. Thank you.
Councillor Peters.
I think this is an indication that Te Kārearea actually adds a real dimension to our understanding of what we're deciding on, and this is one of those times. So I just thank the members of Te Kārearea, the Māori members of Te Kārearea, for their input into this important process. It seems small compared to the last item, but in fact it's about our growing depth of understanding of our area and the cultures within. Thank you.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm very interested in seeing what the submissions say, because the problem when you change the name of an area is you can easily infringe on somebody else's geographical area. So I'm going to hold back any input until I know what those boundaries are and I get feedback on who's going to be the aggrieved or not aggrieved. Thank you.
You've already spoken of Councillor Olsen. Question, but you can't ask a question of another councillor.
Okay. Can I make a general question?
Be specific to your question, Councillor Olsen.
So, has anyone done the research to see how far those boundaries go?
So that if you ask me a question to the staff?
Yes. I think I am.
Yes, I mean, a lot of this is there's three iterations of boundaries that I can probably talk to. When you look at the map, the proposer had a wider area, but the geographical board realised that they were in, as Councillor Reid has highlighted, that it actually does impose on some other areas that already hold historical names. So they've pretty much restricted it to, FENS's localities database description. because the name's actually an unofficial name, and what that means by unofficial is that it hasn't been officiated by the New Zealand Geographical Board. Ngāti Kapo Torongari, though, have identified that there's 3 areas on the Fens localities extent of area, which they do not want included within the name change. That's Springs Flat, which already has a historical name, Te Tutua. 3 Mile Bush also sits on a block that already has a historical name, which is Ngārara Tunua. That's the bottom of the Ngārara Tunua block. And Gumtown is the same. It sits across 2 historical blocks, and they do not want when they put in their submission on Sunday, they're going to be discussing that, and they're looking to actually restrict the name change to just to the village area and the surrounding demographic there. So it doesn't impede on those other 3 areas as far as the historical names are concerned.
That's when I looked at that map.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillors, okay, so we've had a moving seat, we've had a chance to speak. All, Councillor Yovich, did you have a...
I was just going to, I appreciate the work that the partnership does do, and I know it's been the initiation of submissions have been passionately put forward by a couple of our community in regards to the submission, not knowing what is involved, and that I won't be voting in favour of it.
So, councillors, I'm just going to move the motion, and then you move to the second, should I say, we're going to take the motion. Councillor Hooker, you wanted to write a reply, didn't you?
Sorry.
You didn't want to write a reply?
No, don't talk everyone.
Okay, right. All those in favour? Aye. Any opposed? Would you like it recorded?
Yes.
And all abstain.
And Councillor Reid abstains.
And I'll abstain.
And Councillor Olsen abstains as well. Okay. That has been carried. Councillors, now at this point here, we're going to reorganise the room and change a few things. So I'm going to give the councillors a 15-minute break at this point.